Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. So today we're going to look at a short clip from Ken from Theoria Apophasis. Yesterday he made a video about Armand Hillman and the sources, and he was talking about Pope Leo X and what he said about Jesus. And the quote is that it was a fable. Well, we're going to look at where Ken got this from and what the actual source is for what Pope Leo said. And let's see if he actually said it.
Pope Leo X called Christ a fable. This is dated to 1521.
So Ken said Pope Leo X called Christ a fable because he was talking about he doesn't believe Jesus was even real and the church completely made him up, or the Romans completely made him up so they could make the Catholic Church what it is. And he used this quote from Pope Leo to say Christ was a fable. Let's take a look at Pope Leo and what time he was alive and what his ideas were when he was Pope. Now, Pope Leo X, his papacy began 1513 and ended December 1521. So he died in 1521 in December. So that's what he's saying. This quote is from 1521. Now look at what Leo X actually thought about the Protestant Reformation. He rejected it. So this is further down the Wikipedia page about what other people were writing about Pope Leo X after his death. And it says in the 17th century, it was estimated 300 or 400 writers reported on the authority of a single polemic anti-Catholic source. And here it is right here, the source itself from the English translation in 1574, which is 53 years after the death of Leo. Now it says, the Pope gave him a very contemptuous answer, saying, all ages can testify enough how profitable that fable of Christ hath been to us and our company. Now, when you look at this in the 16th century English, you've got to look at right here, this F is actually an S. This was from the book, The Pageant of Popes, by a fiercely Protestant historical text writer. And it was in Latin by the English reformer John Bale. And it was in 1558. Originally in Latin, was fiercely Protestant. And what did we just see with Pope Leo? He rejected the Protestant Reformation. So this dude who's writing this is against the Catholic Church. He was a bishop, a Protestant controversialist, a dramatist, one of whose plays was asserted to be the first English history play. He's notable for his part in the religious strife of the 16th century and for his antiquarian studies, including the first rudimentary history of English literature. This is the guy who wrote this right here. But delving deeper into John Bale's history and his life, you can see up the top right where it says quick facts. He was born in 1495 and died in 1563. So he was alive at the same time Pope Leo was, but he was Protestant, so he was against the Catholics. And it says Bale's voluminous writings are characterized by a fiercely partisan spirit, crude but vigorous satire, and frequent scurrility. Okay, what is scurrility? Refers to the grossly abusive, foul-mouthed, or obscene language that is intentionally offensive and often meant to damage someone's reputation. So this is where this guy is writing from, according to the Encyclopedia Britannica. If he's intentionally writing to damage the reputation of the Catholics because he's a Protestant, can we take this as historical accuracy, factual accuracy? Because as it says on his other works, based on biographies of English writers, though not always accurate, this early literary history is invaluable to students of the medieval and early Tudor periods. So in his other works, it's saying on Britannica, he's not always accurate, and he's coming at it from a standpoint of a Protestant against the Catholics. So when he puts a quote in his book of Pope Leo saying how profitable that fable of Christ hath been to us and our company, can we really take it as factual evidence that Pope Leo actually said this? Because this is not a primary source. This is a secondary source from someone who is opposed to Leo and the popes because he's a Protestant. And Pope Leo, as I showed you, was against Protestantism. And this is the opening page of the Pageant of Popes. And you can see it says, shewing many strange, notorious, outrageous, and tragical parts played by them, the popes and the bishops. And look what it says above that. I'll punch in. Which is manifestly shewed the beginning of Antichrist. He was trying to prove that the popes were the Antichrist. So I'm just showing you got to be careful with the sources you're going to pull up and quote in a video and not actually check where they're coming from or not cite where they're coming from. You just say, Pope Leo said this. Okay, but where did it come from? And I'm showing you it came from someone who was against the popes and against the Catholics as a Protestant. I'm not saying I support either side. I'm just saying he wasn't for Pope Leo, and he's writing this after Pope Leo died. And it was a book trying to prove that the Catholics were Antichrist. So can you really take this as a statement of fact? that Pope Leo said it. So that's all I'm saying. Be careful when you're sourcing and citing things when you don't bring up the actual source of where they're from.